Hey guys, I'm here with my colleague Ed Verdel, and in this video we decided to focus on the most common home types that we see across the suburbs of North Jersey. And between the two of us, we've done probably thousands of showings, and so we've seen it all. And we thought it would be a good idea to talk about some of the pros and cons and some of the key attributes of the different types of homes we see.
Now, most of the homes we show have been built in the last century and a half, and we've decided to organize this video from a chronological standpoint, from the homes being built in the late 19th and early 20th century through today. So let's start with the first type of home that was very popular in the late 19th and early 20th century, which is the Victorian home.
That's right. So we see Victorians primarily in towns that are more opulent, or at least were opulent at the time. So from 1870 to about the 19 teens, Victorian homes were very, very popular for families that had money. And by the way, you don't have to go out to the suburbs. You could find some of them in Weehawken on the waterfront. In a lot of suburbs in North Jersey, Victorians still to this day are very attractive and prized for home buyers because they offer a very large footprint, typically a very spacious layout. And some of them, the fully renovated, could be spectacular homes with restored original details. Others might have had decades of decline and neglect, but with a full renovation, they can be beautiful once again. So they're very attractive, typically could be very expensive, simply because of the spaciousness and the large square footage they offer. So you'll find them today from Essex County to Bergen, to Union and Morris and beyond.
One of the other attributes of a Victorian home that we often see is they are typically colorful. They have a very ornamental view from the outside, a lot of woodwork and beautiful accents. And people really love neighborhoods that are full of Victorian homes. Those are usually very attractive neighborhoods because of how pretty they are from the outside. One example of this, not in northern New Jersey actually, is in Cape May, if you've ever been. Cape May is full of gorgeous Victorians, so that's one place that we love to visit as a family.
Probably a lot of money back then there.
Still is.
Still is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next one, which are colonial homes.
Yeah, so colonials were very, very popular starting in the 1920s up until around 1940, and they are epitomized by kind of ancient Greek and ancient Roman inspired architectural elements. So you typically see columns and maybe a portico in the front. And colonials are very, very popular because the layout is very consistent. You walk in, it's typically, the most common ones are center hall colonial. So there's a central staircase in the middle. And then it's kind of like a square layout where you have a formal sitting room on one side, a living room on the other side, formal dining room, and a kitchen area. And upstairs you have your bedrooms and bathrooms. Colonials are found all over the place in North Jersey, and the traditional colonials I'm referring to from 100 years ago were maybe a couple thousand square feet, maybe 2,500 square feet.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe you had a full bathroom upstairs and another bathroom downstairs, but oftentimes you wouldn't find an ensuite, a primary suite.
Yeah, you wouldn't find some of the attributes you'll find today, like walk-in closets, en-suites, that sort of thing, or even high ceiling basements, for example. Like usually there'll be smaller basements, lower ceilings, and that's what distinguishes it from a lot of today's homes.
Correct. So, and we'll compare later in this conversation, we'll compare it to modern colonials, or colonial-inspired modern homes. The next one we wanted to talk about, and I'll turn it over to Ed, is the types of styles we saw in the post-World War II boom.
Yeah.
And one of them that we see all over the place is the Cape Cod style.
Yeah, in post-World War II, there was a huge housing boom around the country, specifically focused on suburban growth. There were a lot of soldiers that returned from the war. It was a time of economic prosperity from the country, and there was a lot of marketing and push for building up suburban towns with schools to raise families and that sort of thing.
A lot of babies being born, right?
A lot of
baby
babies.
Boomer generation.
Baby boomers, yep. A lot of babies being born at that time, exactly. So families were expanding. And the government had pushed for the construction of starter homes, which we don't see so much today, but we'll get back to that. So the first style we wanted to highlight is the Cape Cod home. They're typically smaller homes, and you'll see dormered windows on the outside. So it might be a lower roof line, but then you have the windows that stick out a little bit. And once you go through the property, through the house, then you'll kind of understand why. So like a colonial, you do have your living room, kitchen, dining area on the first floor, and as you head upstairs, you have the bedrooms. But one thing with Cape Cods you'll find is slanted ceilings in the bedrooms upstairs.
And typically low ceilings too.
Yeah, slanted lower ceilings. I should have mentioned that. Yeah, and many times you won't have an ensuite in the upstairs, primary bedroom, and they're typically just smaller footprints in general. Mostly, I would say 12 to 1,600 square feet.
Yep.
That's a Cape. That was looked at as the ultimate starter home back then. Moving on a little bit chronologically, in the 50s and 60s, split level homes became very popular. And coincidentally, I actually grew up in a split level home. And the way that these are laid out is typically you walk in either on the family room level or the living room level, but each level is staggered in the home, and you'll typically see 4 to 7 steps between levels, not a huge staircase, just a few steps. You'll have the living room, dining room, kitchen on one level, and then you'll head up just a few steps to go up to the upstairs bedroom. Many people have expanded these over the years. They've done additions to them, whether it's adding on a primary bedroom where the attic was or expanding out the back. But typically the way that we see them in their original construction state would be with slightly smaller bedrooms than you would see in colonials and other more modern homes. The ones that do have, not all of them do, but the ones that do have a primary bedroom ensuite, they tend to be very small. So split level homes, some families do love them because when you have little babies running around, there's not so many stairs to fall down if they do fall. It's only a few. But there are a lot of people, I would say, that also don't like them for the compartmentalization of the smaller rooms as well.
You've been talking about split level.
Yeah.
What is the difference between split level and bi-level?
Okay, yes. So a lot of people think they're the same thing, but they're actually different. And you and I had this discussion before. Split level homes, as I was explaining, you walk in and there's actually rooms where you're on the level that you're walking into. The difference is, and the very obvious characteristic of a bi-level home is when you walk in and you either have to go up or down. So you just have a small landing where you are, and you're either going downstairs to the level that's not really, it's a walkout basement, it's ground level, or you go upstairs to the living room, kitchen, dining area, which then has a few stairs that go up to the bedroom area as well. But you either have to go up or down. That's the big thing. Most bi-level homes don't have a basement. When you walk down the stairs, you go to that ground level. That's considered the basement, but actually it's ground level. And a lot of them will have another bedroom or two on that level and walks out straight to the yard. Whereas split level homes do have a basement typically, especially in northern New Jersey.
Cool. So you did a great job covering the post-World War II starter home boom. I want to jump to the 60s and 70s. And
Sure.
there was one style that was very, very prominent, at least here in our region in North Jersey, and that was the ranch style. And I don't know what it was. Maybe Americans decided they hate stairs, but ranches popped up all over the place, and we still find it. I see it in Bergen County all the time, and in Morris Union and Essex. They're everywhere, and they're epitomized by one-story living. Everything is on one floor. Some might have a finished basement, others do not. Some people spend money to raise their ranch, which is get permits to build a second story, basically an entire addition above it. But a traditional ranch is literally one floor, and you have everything spread out. The layout is by definition spread out. So when you look at a ranch, when you're driving by or walking by, they're squat and kind of wide because everything has to fit on one floor.
Right.
So some people love it. Some people, maybe it's not to their taste. I think the people that a ranch appeals to the most are folks that maybe they're older and they don't want to do stairs for safety reasons or maybe due to some physical ailments. They can't climb stairs. So it's very convenient because you can go from the living room to the kitchen to the bedroom to the bathroom without having to step on a single step.
Yeah.
So what's been your experience with ranches? Could you see any additional advantages or disadvantages of living in a ranch?
Let me just say I love ranches because I do love one floor living, and there's a lot of demand for ranches, and nobody's building them in northern New Jersey versus some other states which they're the most popular type of home. Like in Florida, for example, you'll see ranches all over the place with huge roof lines and a vaulted ceiling in the middle of the house. to answer your question, the advantages and disadvantages, I think, is exactly what you stated. I think folks that don't want to deal with stairs for whatever reason, I think a ranch is a very good solution for them. The disadvantage, I feel, is that noise carries through a ranch very easily. And so if you have people sitting in the living room, it's hard not to hear them in the bedrooms, which are kind of off the living room. So it's not the best house for noise separation. And that's where stairs and compartmentalization can come really in handy, where you could have people downstairs doing one thing and upstairs you can't hear them at all.
A quick side note, studies show that people that walk every day and climb hills and stairs tend to live longer. So perhaps something to keep in mind as you're considering home types in North Jersey. But let's jump into modern colonial, right? So we've covered 1870s to the 1970s, starting with Victorian, ending with ranch. And then colonial kind of made a comeback. So what would you say the difference is between a modern colonial and the colonial from a century ago?
Yeah, I mean, the colonial layout made a comeback, but not so much the look of the colonial. It's completely different now, using different exteriors, different siding, different style windows. And they're much larger now than they were before.
Probably in some cases double what a colonial would have been 100 years ago.
Very commonly, at least double. The more modern colonials that we see in North Jersey are typically 4,500 to 6,500, let's just say, and they go up from there, but 4,500 to 6,500 square feet in total, including basements.
The basement.
Including basements, versus half the size, like you had mentioned a century ago. Now everything has become bigger, so bigger entry, maybe a double-story entry, bigger great room, double story as well, bigger bedrooms. A lot of people are building them with en-suites. And I'm not talking about just the primary, every bedroom having an en-suite.
And bigger bathrooms.
Bigger bathrooms.
The bathroom is probably the size of the Manhattan studio I lived in.
Yes.
In a typical colonial.
Yeah, the en-suite for the primary, absolutely. Walk-in closets and a lot of bedrooms. Also, they're digging deeper, pouring foundations and building basements that are 9-foot ceilings many times. And on the main level, we're seeing in new construction 9 or 10 feet ceilings. 10 feet ceilings have become very common nowadays also. So basically they've just become bigger in scale, use different materials from the outside, more modern materials, and it's become very common for developers to go ahead and purchase the homes we were talking about earlier, such as Cape Cods, split levels, bi-levels, even sometimes Victorians, knock them down and build these very large colonials, sometimes called McMansions and whatnot.
And we're talking about over $1 million sale price, in some cases a couple of million.
We're talking about new construction colonials. Typically, we're talking about $1.6 million plus in northern New Jersey and more desirable towns.
And it comes down to economic fundamentals for if you're someone in construction, a builder, right? Because it makes sense if you're buying an old ranch for $600,000 to $700,000 as a knockdown play, right? Essentially lot value. You have to think about your selling price to make the project worthwhile, particularly with today's construction costs and labor costs.
Yeah, it's become very expensive to build, so for sure.
So to your point, like post World War II, you had the housing boom led by government subsidized mortgage rates and suburban development and sprawl where housing supply was abundant and prices were affordable. Now you have the opposite issue, right, where inventory is very low.
Yeah.
Mortgage rates now have hovered around 7%, which is certainly a lot higher than they were a few years ago. And house prices are insurmountable for most first-time buyers. So you end up in a tough situation where either you end up buying a small Cape Cod from the 1940s and having to renovate it, or an old dated ranch, or you have to shell out $1.5 million for a new construction modern colonial.
Yeah, and again, I think that the reason why I think this housing market will continue to rise is because in northern New Jersey specifically, nobody's building these starter homes. Nobody's building 1,200 to 2,000
it's not profitable.
Homes. It's not profitable. Land is too expensive here. So the first-time home buyers just end up getting priced out because developers are buying those instead, building these $2+ million homes.
Correct. And it's not like there's much vacant land in North Jersey.
Right, and we just have a dwindling supply of starter homes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Ed, I just thought of something a little ironic. You mentioned in the post-World War II boom, families were having a lot of babies, soldiers were coming by, getting
Right,
married,
right,
having
right.
a lot of kids, and buying starter homes that were, in some cases, like a Cape Cod, 1,200 square feet, maybe a 1,500 square foot home, or even a 2,000 square foot colonial. And now developers are building these massive modern colonials that are 4,000 square feet and up.
Yeah.
And families actually have gotten smaller over time. So now, what is it, like less than two on average, right?
Right.
Per American family. So it's just kind of ironic that homes have doubled in size, but meanwhile, family size has actually gotten smaller.
It's very true. It's a good point you make. It's interesting. I guess people just want more space these days to run around.
Yeah.
But hopefully you guys may have learned something here with regards to different type of homes you'll see in North Jersey. And again, this is another reason why it's very important to work with a local agent, because as they tour you properties, they can point out the different styles and features you'll see in these homes and what to expect from certain ones that you may be seeing with them as well.
Correct. Yeah. And the more homes you see,
Yeah.
the better you'll start to understand your own preferences. And you might even be able to eliminate some of the styles we've talked about just from partnering with an experienced local agent and seeing the different styles of homes. Some people will immediately eliminate Cape Cod or split level or ranch or the other way around, right? So it helps to go out there and actually see homes in person, but make sure that you partner with someone experienced and knowledgeable so they could talk you through it as you walk through a home.
It's a very good point. As we take on clients, a lot of them throughout the process will tell us to eliminate certain home styles. And I always say to clients, the more honed in on your search, the more you know exactly what you want, the better the experience is going to be for you, and the easier it's going to make our job, because we can filter for home styles when we do the search for our buyers.
Correct, correct. And of course, if you're seeing an older home, understand that's not the what it's going to look like if you buy it and decide to renovate, right? You might find a dated ranch that could be made beautiful with the right contractor and enough funds. The same could be said for a Cape Cod or a split level or a colonial. So if you see a home and it doesn't check off all the boxes, ask yourself the question, can it check off all of our important boxes if we renovate? So Ed, thanks a lot. I think we covered a lot of ground,
Yeah.
and hopefully this was valuable. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank
Take
you.
care.